Please hold whilst we connect you to Redacted.
This is Lucy Bishop.
This is Fraser Greenfield.
And this is Beau Oyler. And you're listening to Redacted.
Beau Oyler is the founder and CEO of Enlisted Design, where he and his team craft rich product and brand experiences for businesses big and small, from Allbirds to Mr. Beast. Based in Oakland, California, Beau's team at Enlisted Design have been making waves and taking claims with awards like Dieline, Red Dot, and one of Fast Company's most innovative design companies of 2023. Today, Beau is going to let us know what it takes to use design to build brands that people crave.
So, Beau, what's the elevator pitch? For those who might not be familiar with who you are, how would you sell yourself in 100 words?
In 100 words, I'm Beau Oyler, and I'm a design entrepreneur, and I'm the founder of Enlisted Design, a design agency based in the Bay Area in Oakland, and we have an office in Salt Lake City as well. And we create craveable brands.
Very cool.
I didn't count. Was that 100? I didn't count those.
I wasn't counting those either. We used to ask people for origin stories, and then most of the podcast would be over before we started the rest. So now we're very much cocktail version.
Yeah.
Speaking of cocktail party versions, could you give us a cocktail party version of your background and how you got started in design?
I have a pretty cool story of how things started. Pretty intense story. I grew up in California on the coast, just south of San Francisco. And when I was 7, my older brother, who was 8.5, got sick with AIDS. He was the first kid to ever be treated at Stanford Hospital for AIDS. So during this 1.5 year period of time that my brother was being treated, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents in Los Angeles. And my grandpa, I love that man. You call him Grandpa Ralph. Grandpa Ralph was a teacher, and he taught at a university in LA. We always just knew that he was a designer. Never heard the words industrial design. He would take me in his little 914 Porsche to school with him during this 1.5 year period of time. And I would meet all the students, and he would ask me every day, he'd say, "Okay, Beau, what do you want to make today?" And he would give me a piece of paper and a pen, and I would sketch something out. Then we would go to the shop, we would make that thing. But he taught me from a very young age, 7.5 years old, that if you can think it, you can figure out a way to make it happen. That's what we would do every day. It was awesome. And then later on, when I discovered industrial design, I was visiting my grandparents before they passed away. And I said, yeah, I'm going to move to San Francisco and go to the academy and study this thing called industrial design. And my grandma just started laughing. And she said, think about it, Beau. Like, what do you think your grandpa taught for 30 years in LA? And I was like, oh my gosh, that is industrial design. And I had no clue.
That's crazy.
Isn't that cool?
That sounds like design was really there when you needed it as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, design has saved me many times in my life.
Yeah.
So your grandfather taught industrial design and just didn't tell you?
Yes. Yeah. So they always just called it design. It was just design, right? But I'd never heard the term industrial design. And this is, keep in mind, 70s, 80s.
Sounds like he was practicing design inception.
He was. He was. Yeah, but it's cool. And it's just kind of in our blood.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to kind of going to work. I used to go to work with my dad, who was a builder, and he'd have the people who would work for him there as well. And I'd be off making plans for my next furniture item as a 6-year-old. And then I would enlist some of them to execute my designs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's awesome. It's so cool.
I wish I had a good story like that. All I got is I used to build kayaks and model airplanes with the old man.
Oh, that's pretty good. I used to do a few model cars as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right. One more story on the other side of the family. So that's my mom's side. And then my dad's side, the Oyler side, my grandpa in the 40s, 50s just had impeccable 50s style. And he was reading Time magazine where there's a guy named Richard Neutra, who's an architect on the cover. Neutra is the father of mid-century modern architecture. So flat roof, glass, all metal. And he hand wrote Richard Neutra a letter with a photo of the property that he had just bought out in the desert outside of LA. And he just sent him the note. And about a month later, Richard Neutra wrote him a handwritten note and said, I will be at your property at this time on this day. Meet me there. And they met, they became fast friends. And Richard Neutra designed the Oyler house out in the desert for my grandpa. And my grandpa built it himself and then raised my dad and their 6 kids in that house.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to look this up. This sounds amazing.
There's a really cool documentary called, it's like something like the Oyler House Desert Retreat.
Is it still in the family?
Yeah, I found it.
No, they sold it in
Wow.
97 to an actress who collects Neutros.
That's
Yeah.
At least it went to someone incredible, right? Wow.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, so check out the documentary. It's really, really cool. And every time I watch it, I just cry because it's just like, there's my grandpa. I love that man.
That's incredible.
Kind of cool. So on one side, it's a grandpa who knows how to create, and the other side is a grandpa who knows how to curate a specific style for his life.
Incredible.
And what we do as industrial designers, we need to be able to do both.
Wow.
Bit tragic that a family heirloom is now owned by someone else.
Kelly Lynch. I know it is. She's super cool about it, though. We've had family reunions there. She's basically given an open invitation to the family.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So there's my origin story.
And what about the origin story of Enlisted Design?
Enlisted came out of 2 things. I was working at the time at a design studio in San Francisco called New Deal Design, and I loved it there. It's great. Got tons of opportunity to work on really cool consumer brands, all tech brands. And I was there the day James Park walked in and had this idea for a little computer we could put on our clothes and it would track our steps, right? And that became Fitbit. And so I was on the first Fitbit design team. And so really cool opportunities at New Deal. We were 7 people when I joined New Deal, and then they scaled over time up to 40, 50 people. And so during that time, I had 2 realizations. One was, whoa, I had been taught that industrial design was the center of the world, right? Like you hang out with Yves Bahar, Gadi Amit, Jacques Morenstein, all these San Francisco design legends for long enough, you think that it's everything. And then I started realizing, wait a second, we're designing these products that then go into packaging that we have no control over, that then are branded and this whole identity is created around them that we have no control over. And then we have no control over the messaging that they launch these. And then it just turned into kind of a shit show as these different brands were launching. And all I had control over was the product. And so what I decided to do is I wanted to learn strategy and insights, brand positioning, branding, visual identity, packaging design, digital design, 3D visualization. How do I begin to craft an ability to bring cohesion for these brands? And so I started doing work on the side when I was at New Deal, and I would save my industrial design 40 hours a week at New Deal. Then I would do branding, packaging, digital on the side for another 40, 50 hours a week. I did that for 2 years until we'd saved up enough money to break off and start Enlisted. And the second thing that I learned during this period of time was that it takes more than just the old school way of design where we're like, okay, we're the designers. We're going to design what we think is really cool. And then we're going to bestow it upon you. Right. And it's like, no consumer work, no strategy or insights, and full ego as you're presenting it to the clients. And any feedback that the client gives is just like, who the hell are you? We're the experts. Right. And I just got so sick of that so quickly because it's just in my nature to collaborate. And so that's why we're called Enlisted, because we enlist our clients into our design team and then they enlist us into their business team. And together we co-create. It's not just a better process, but I think that we actually create a better product experience and certainly a better brand experience. When I branched off to start Enlisted 15 years ago, we immediately hired industrial designers, brand designers, graphic designers, packaging designers to be able to create this studio that really didn't exist 15 years ago, in which we were able to bring cohesion across the entire brand platform.
That's very cool. So if you're starting to work on a product, the branding and marketing team already in on that project at day one, so that as the product grows, matures, so does the depth of those marketing strategies?
Yes. Yep. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so as we go in and our strategy team does the consumer work, we have industrial designer there as they're doing the consumer work. And then as the visual design team and the industrial design team are creating vision boards, we create those together so that we have one vision board for the whole brand. And then everybody works off of that as a true north. And
That's incredible.
it's awesome because then you look at all of these touch points and you're like, wow, it's as if the same designer did it, but obviously no designer can do all of that.
Yeah, everyone is just so symbiotic and on the same page. It sounds incredible.
Yeah, and it's not like everybody's on the same page throughout the process, right? You've got designers who are like, okay, but from a graphic standpoint, from a visualization standpoint, this is what the consumer is going to want and crave, and from industrial design. And so they're going through that struggle.
Sculpting it together.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Go through the struggle together throughout the process versus the struggle of, oh, well, here's the product. And now we're going to go hire this graphic designer. And then they're going to struggle because they don't really like where the product landed. And it's this weird tug of war.
Yeah, totally. That sounds so incredible. I've previously had a job where somebody told me that I wasn't to talk to anyone outside the design team, especially not the graphic designers.
Oh, no.
Compartmentalization is key.
It's just like, what?
I know, because that makes things difficult.
Yeah.
How would you start the seed of that process then, where everyone starts off from the same memorandum of understanding, if you have so many different skill sets and goals that might conflict or overlap?
Yeah. So it all starts with the person, the consumer. We love to objectify our people by calling them consumers, but they're just people. And we get to know as many of those people as we can. And we get to know what their pain points are. We get to know what their aspirations are. We get to know what they wear, where they live, what other products they're buying, not necessarily even competitive products to what we're designing, but just within their sphere of their world. And so if you look at a mood board, for example, for an industrial design product, you're going to get really cool product and really cool color material finish, CMF, and really cool materials. They're different form factors. And that's a great industrial design mood board. But where mood goes into vision is when you begin to cast a broader view of that person's world. It goes way beyond just the product. It goes into the apparel. It goes into the artwork on their wall. It goes into typefaces that they're drawn to, advertisements, motion, animation, color material finish also. But maybe we have an image of one product on the vision board, and we cast a much broader vision of what this world in which this consumer is going to want to be part of. It's going to be aspirational to their life. And so it's much, much richer experience. And it takes all of these designers adding to and co-creating this vision that then you look at it and you go, okay, my goal now as an industrial designer is to design a product that is worthy of that vision board. And each person has that mentality, that feeling of, if my packaging had existed last week, if my branding had existed last week, would it have made it into this vision board? And that's why it becomes this true north across all of these different expertise.
That's so cool. Really honing in on that demographic persona and finding out how they use things to identify outside of themselves.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Then when you get into the tactical pain points, we do a lot of qual work where we'll spend time with people. If we're doing a beauty device, for example, we had this beauty device line that we created that, and we spent 29 interviews with women in their bathrooms, watching them go through their routine, all female strategy led team, right? So they can be there with them as they're going through their routine, so we can watch them and see how they're doing certain things. And that's just really important to us. Sometimes we'll go shopping with consumers to understand, help narrate your shopping out loud so we can understand what you're drawn to, what you're not drawn to, why you would trust a certain brand because of their packaging and not trust a different one. And those kind of things are really important to us so that we can have true empathy for them rather than this false empathy where you create these 4 personas. Let me introduce you to Jill and Jerry. And it's like, dude, you just made all that shit up.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we don't always get the luxury of having 29 interviews with real people.
Very true. And sometimes we don't have, and that was for a startup, and they didn't have a huge budget. And so most of those were held on Zoom. So we were able to be really scrappy with it. And then the other advantage that we have is that we joined a company called Pattern a few years ago. Pattern is the second largest seller in the world on Amazon. Amazon's the first largest. Okay. And so when you think about collecting data, like quantitative data on consumers and on what converts, we have access to all of that data. So we know what converts. We know what color, material, finish they're searching for. We know what pain points are for all of the competitive products of a product that we're designing. And so we're able to synthesize that data and humanize the data into something that our design team can really utilize as they go into their work.
Do you ever worry that that heavy research focused and data driven approach might also end up regurgitating the same thing over and over again as opposed to something wildly different?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I worry about it. That's why I make sure that doesn't happen. No, I do.
How do you do that?
Okay, so the way that we do that, that's where what we call humanizing data, right? So if you're looking at just the data, it's going to be somewhat of a mid-journey experience. So I assume, Lucy, Fraser, you both used Midjourney, right? I love Midjourney. I love AI. Love what it's doing. We use it on a daily basis at Enlisted. Okay, we write it into our proposals. We want our clients to know that we're using it.
Mm-hmm.
And what's amazing about it is that when you prompt, you're collecting data from millions of sources all over the world. You're collecting what already exists. But at this point, we use the data to understand the person. We use the data to understand what they have chosen in the past, so that we can create what they would choose in the future. And without that view of the current or the view of the past, we might fall into a trap of which we would regurgitate or create something that's already existed versus being able to create something that's truly next level, like that's truly the next chapter of their life where they're going to see, oh, this meets all my requirements based on all these other things that I like, but that I've never seen.
You're almost using AI as a litmus test of this is the current, and if it's too similar to that, you need to change.
Yeah, it gives us kind of like a springboard.
That's very cool. I'm a huge AI fan. I'm the same. I'm always on Midjourney. I'm typing in my little ideas. Or sometimes if I'm driving, I'm just making voice notes to make later.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Otherwise, can't remember them.
Yeah, we're searching for our first AI prompt designer.
Oh my God.
So specific, like designer that all they will do is work in AI.
Lucy, sounds like a dream job for you.
Oh, look, you're not the first person to say that to me.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
good.
I do. I love it. Do you guys get into the scripting as well?
Yeah. So with Pattern, we have a new, well, it's not new, but it's an initiative that we call Brain. And it's our own proprietary product that harnesses multiple different kind of AI tools. And so there's a team at Pattern that's doing the scripting and the coding from the ground up. It's pretty amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I would like to have a play.
All right. Well, Brain's going to be internal for a while, probably a couple of years, just so that we can have a leg up with our clients. And then once we create a SaaS out of it, I'll definitely let you know.
Please call me. I find it so interesting, the whole ethical debate around AI, because from my perspective, working as a creative professional, how could you possibly not be influenced by the world around you? That is how design is created.
Yeah.
I find it really fascinating, the people who sit on the other end of the spectrum and say it's stealing people's intellectual property. I'm not entirely sure where they think design comes from. We're all standing on the shoulders of other great designers.
Yeah.
You just need to have a full speech on how natural intelligence is destroying and amalgamating unique design and stealing IP.
Perfect.
It's all down to that pesky natural intelligence, and as expensive as well, right?
Yeah. Now, the truth of the matter is what their claim is always been the case. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, but the New York MoMA has a great display case of products, right, that are all famous products. They've got the original iPod that Johnny designed, and then you've got the Braun tape player or recorder radio or whatever it is next to it, right? And you're just like, holy shit, they're the same. Right? And so they've got a whole wall of products that are side by side, so products that inspired other products. And I think the more mature designer is never going to feel threatened by that. I think the more mature designer is going to always be creating what's next rather than worrying about what's been ripped off.
Totally.
I mean, if anyone wants a nice parable, there was a story of how in the 1920s, they wanted to shut down the US Patent Office on the basis of anything that could be invented has already been invented.
Yeah.
I've heard that one before, yeah.
Well, I don't necessarily think it's true. I understand the sentiment because science fiction was very much taking off back then. And the idea is everything that's been published in these books will come to pass at some point, so there's no point trying to patent it. And it definitely does give me a sense of comfort in the sense that everything's a remix, everything's been done before, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I really do.
I mean, on the basis of all we just discussed, how would you summarize some key design principles, rules of thumb, or philosophies that guide your work at Enlisted?
Yeah, what we're striving to do, so we don't file patents. Our clients do, okay? I'm not concerned about those. I'm concerned about making sure we don't copy anything else, right? So we have our tabs on what's on the market. But really what drives us, what we get really, really excited about is not 10 principles of good design hanging on our wall here, right? What we have is a mantra that we all try to live by, and we strive every single day to create next level shit. And so the clients that come to us, or the potential clients that come to us, would have this filter. Are they looking to radically change a category? Are they looking to create something that's never been created before? Right? Are these the people that are going to be able to do it with us? For us, it always has to be next level. It always has to create this degree of craveability. It's hard to measure that, right? I would love to put an ROI on next level shit. How do you do that? We have metrics around, generally speaking, when a company hires Enlisted, we generally 10 to 20x their investment within the first year after launch. That's pretty good. Okay. But you've got marketing and sales and other things that are involved in that. For us, the guiding ethos really is this opportunity next level? Is this group going to partner with us in a way that is A, going to launch, and B, going to launch it in a way that is going to be next level? Is this going to go out and change people's lives? Is it going to bring joy? And those don't have to be massive things, right? Like sometimes little things. I've got a friend, Simon, who's walking down the aisle at Target and he's looking for a toothbrush. And he's like, why the hell does every toothbrush look like it was designed by IDEO in 1993? And it was designed by IDEO in 1993. Simon's an industrial designer living in New York. And he's like, shit, I'm going to change this. I am going to love the toothbrush aisle. And so he designed Quip. It's this little toothbrush that has a little vibrator in it, and you can stick it on your mirror because it's got a little stiction thing. And it's just a joy to use. And it cost me $40. Well, the investors were like, $40 for a toothbrush? Toothbrushes are $5 max. What are you thinking? He loved the category, right? He loved the aisle. He loved the people enough to give them a better experience. And it's created an entire new market that all of those incumbent toothbrush brands are trying to catch up to Quip. And I just love that.
Very cool. I'm just looking at it now. They've got such a beautiful design signature as well.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
Super cohesive across all of their products, all of their renderings. I mean, you can tell that an industrial designer is the CEO.
Very cool. And it's cool to have a midpoint for the toothbrush as well. Because I have to say, I'm a pretty hardcore electric toothbrush fan. So I've got the 100 Philips baby.
Okay.
It's cool to find that new niche as well.
All right. If you're a fanatic like I am, I got to tell you something. So I'm in our Salt Lake studio right now, our little Salt Lake enclave.
Oh my gosh. Beautiful.
And this is what we call our trophy wall. Right when you walk in, you got this big wall of consumer brands and products that we've created. So check this out.
Gigantic ceramic pug bulldog situation.
Oh, up here?
Yeah.
Yeah, up there. Yeah, we do a ton of work in the pet category. That's our little model for displaying our whistle dog tracker tags.
Oh my gosh.
I was going to say, do you have a photograph of this we can put in the show notes so people don't feel left out?
Oh, of the wall? Sure, yeah, totally. I'll send something over. So check this out. If you're a fanatic like I am, you got to check out Mode. So Mode toothbrush is the most gorgeous, luxurious toothbrush experience you've ever had. It's a startup out of New York, and they are absolutely crushing it. And this is a great example, actually. When you think about brand cohesion, right? Mode, which is on our website, you can just put the link there. The packaging and the branding and the product and all the visualization. Watch the video, watch all the 3D animations we did for the website. It all just feels so cohesive.
The thing that's really striking to me about it is that ingenious charger that literally just looks like a plug that they've plugged into the wall, and then it mag safes to the toothbrush. It's very cool.
Yep.
And it's got this little ambient light.
Yeah, you got
very
it.
Cool.
Isn't that great?
Look, I will say, I thought my Philips toothbrush was cool because it comes with a cup and it's a charging cup.
Yes, I've had one of those.
I'm
It's
impressed
great.
with that one as well. But this is a very sleek charger.
Yeah, well,
Very
it came
cool.
from insights of people just don't want it on their countertop in their vanity. They don't want cables all over the place. And so we're like, okay, if we're not going to have cables and we're not going to have it on the counter, but we also want to put it away, walls are an incredibly underutilized resource. There's already plugs there. Great. Let's use a plug. And let's make a twist in case you need to plug in underneath so that you're not blocking it.
Yeah,
Seems like a no-brainer, right? But
You say that.
totally.
it isn't a no-brainer until you do it.
And it just seems like one of those things that would be so good for traveling as well, because you're always going to take your power board. So it'll just plug in.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, big brain.
All right, Lucy. And $150 goes out of Lucy's bank account.
Yeah. To see that like negative. Cha-ching.
Cha-ching.
You'll never afford a house at this rate.
I know.
Yeah, but those teeth. Look at those teeth. I mean, come on. Who needs a house?
I know. They're going to buy me a house, clearly. That's very exciting. I have this really bad habit of I meet all these incredible people and I become so invested in the products that they make that I just have to collect them
Yeah.
all. I'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
shopping and I'm like, oh, there's such and such. We made friends with this guy called Jack. Shout out to Jack, who worked at High Smile. And they had new toothpaste. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Jack's toothpaste. I have to buy it. Like,
I'm the same way though. Friends who have companies or anything that we design or a friend designs, I'm like, I have to have it. I have a collection of products that I've used once.
I'm the same. And what's even worse is I have this beautiful friend who works as a designer for the tech company Atlassian. And she's just the most impressive, baddest bitch. And she found out I designed a bin.
Yeah.
Just a boring household bin. And she's like, oh my God, I need it. I have to buy it. I'm going to put it on a plinth in my house. I'm like, I'm not going to use it as a bin. It's a sculptural piece. And I'm like, no, don't do that. I was like, leave the bin where it is.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so along
Yeah.
those lines though, don't you love the experience, especially early on in your career, where you go into somebody's house, a friend, whatever, they invite you over for dinner, and you see one of your products in their house?
No.
I love that experience. And I used to be all excited and I would ask them questions and do little user studies and stuff. And then over time, I would just be like, no, you don't need to say anything. I can just enjoy that they are enjoying the product. And my wife will nudge me and be like, hey, look over there. I love it.
Oh, I'm envious.
One of my favorite things to do, I've designed quite a few things in the Home Depot version of Australia. I'm always strolling through the aisles, and my favorite thing is to watch someone comparing your product against someone else's product, and you're
Yes.
sitting there with your little binoculars, and you're like, which are you going to choose? Just people watching the whole time.
Yes, it's so true.
That
Yep.
is
I
prime.
love that. I agree. Do you ever go up to them and ask them why?
I've only done it once because I really want to leave people to themselves. I think it's kind of a terrifying vibe as a customer.
Yeah.
But I did once see someone buy both my product and the competitor product, which were identical. And I really wanted to know why they were purchasing both. But unfortunately, there was quite a large language barrier and he couldn't understand what I was asking. And he just kept sending me to the aisle. So I was like, this has ended absolutely atrociously.
So Enlisted has been known for having a strong focus on data-driven design. Can you tell us exactly what that means and how you implement it in your work?
Yeah, good segue, Fraser. Thank you. Way to bring us back. Yeah, I mean, it's just like we talked about earlier with the humanization of the data. Data for data's sake is useless, in my opinion. You really have to humanize it, and you have to understand how to utilize the data to create love for that person, to create a joyful experience for that person. And that takes humans. It takes humans to be able to look at all that data and go, okay, interesting. It's mapping things out here and here and here. Here's where, generally speaking, the data is showing there's an opportunity. But within that opportunity, we must create. I think that the data is just beautiful inputs for us to build off and use our intuition and our experience and our culture, most importantly, to understand the consumer so that we can create something that's going to bring joy to them.
And probably more from a technical standpoint, does that mean you look at big Excel spreadsheets or you have someone to put it into legible formats for you with bar charts and graphs?
Yeah, we have amazing data scientists at Pattern who help us with that. Annie, who's our VP of strategy on our side, is the segue between the data and the human. She takes that data and is able to kind of plot it out into a series of graphs. So I very gratefully do not have to look at Excel spreadsheets. I get to see it when it's already been humanized.
Do you get all those sexy graphs that are all visualized where they're moving around and they're flipping and they're all that cool stuff?
They're so sexy. Yeah. Designers are just facing so hard over those graphs.
I love it. Every time. Sometimes I see a real good one and I'm like, oh. I'm even in a Facebook group where it's bad visual data sets or something. Yeah. So I love the good ones and I love the equally bad ones.
The cringe.
But are you guys team Google Sheets or Excel?
Oh, Google Sheets. Yeah, for sure.
Have you incorporated the AI plugin yet?
So the team has, yes. Yeah. And then one cool tool that they've created now is plugging in AI. They're able to harness the data from Amazon and then plug it into the Brain, our AI tool, and they can create what we call where to play. So we're able to partner with brands to say, okay, cool, here's your 50 SKUs today. But based on your current portfolio, this is what would make sense for your brand to launch next. It's a pipeline predictor, which is just to an entrepreneur, to a founder, that is a godsend.
That is so cool.
Isn't that cool? So then we can present it to them and then have Enlisted design it and then plug it into their portfolio.
How did you come up with something like that?
I didn't. The data scientist did. We just said, hey, wouldn't it be cool?
And like, oh yeah, sure. I think I can do that.
Back at uni, when I was doing my honors thesis, I was basically creating parametric glasses and making them incorporate with augmented reality. So they would appear on your face and you could change the variables depending on what you wanted. The idea was for it to eventually capture the person's face data and the frame, put it all together into what it could predict you would want with your face shape, depending on what people were currently trending towards, which was so far out of my capabilities. I only got to the bridge between the CAD and the AR, but it's so cool to hear people doing things similar to what I had dreamt of.
Yeah, it's so cool. And it's just the beginning. It really is.
Yeah.
Where do you see it going?
Oh, I see just mass adoption. I mean, for designers that are starting their careers or going to school, I mean, I was in design school basically as everything was going from 2D to 3D, right? And there were designers that were like, what? I'm never going to use 3D. I know designers who have never used 3D.
It'll never catch on.
Yeah, it'll never catch on, right? It's 1999 and this internet fad. And so that's what it is. Is it going to become more useful? Yes. Is it going to become easy? Yes. Honestly, it's just going to become plugins for all of the tools that we already use. And we're already seeing that with Photoshop and a couple other tools. It's just going to become something that we just don't think about anymore. Google it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example. I feel like it's going to be really similar to, did you go to school with computers at all? I'm talking about primary school, secondary school. Or did you not go to school with computers? Were you before AI or after AI?
Yeah.
It's going to be the marker.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm in a funny place because I was born in 1979. So I'm Gen X and I went to school in the 90s. My senior year was 96, 97. We had computers, but they were useless. We were playing Carmen Sandiego on computers, like using them as word processors.
I loved Carmen Sandiego.
I didn't have a computer that had the internet till I remember when it was, but it was useless basically, right? And then cell phones too, the same example, right? Early on in my career, I was designing little Nokia bar phones and stuff. And I was just like, whoa, I didn't even have a phone.
That's so wild. My dad is known as a real early adopter. And he had a very, very, very early cell phone. It used to have an attachment that would plug into the car horn section. So if someone called you, it would start tooting. And he said it was really good. But the problem was I was the only person other than my grandfather as well who had a mobile. So during the day, there was no one to call because no one else was home.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah. So I love it. So now that exact phone is in industrial design. Well, not the exact
Yeah.
like one that
that
my father
model.
had. I don't know where that is.
Yeah.
But the model is in the Industrial Design Museum in Sydney.
That's
and
great.
It's very
That's
cool.
so cool.
I just remember growing up, my dad always having these awesome phones that
Yeah.
would flip out.
Yep, exactly.
Hey everyone, this episode is sponsored by Concepts app, an infinite canvas sketching app for iOS, Android, Windows, and Chrome OS. Concepts app is a great way of getting your ideas down either as a napkin sketch or an all-out render, with virtual tools like liquid pens, brushes, and even Copic markers. Once you're done, you can share them with a team, overlay PDFs, drag and drop images to create mood boards and virtual post-it note walls. Or share and develop work with the built-in presentation mode, perfect when you need to sketch out that perfect idea in a meeting. Concepts app is the tool of choice at businesses like Disney, Apple, and Sony, and it's free. There are some advanced tools that you have to pay for, so head via our link in the show notes for a 90-day free trial of Concepts Pro on us. Concepts is available on iOS, Windows, Android, and Chrome OS. You can download Concepts from your preferred app store.
Redacted. I got a question for you guys. One of the sit-down conversations that I have with my younger designer, because I'm the old codger in this video, and I'll sit down with them or we'll have a lunchtime conversation and I'll ask them, how do you wrap your mind around the fact that everything you create in your career is only going to destroy the world and is going to fill landfills?
I struggle with that a lot. I work in really low margin products. So I've worked for a lot of big box companies and really, really high turnover in the tens of millions. I see a lot of products that I've worked on abandoned on the side of the road, not super regularly, but regularly enough. It's really hard. I think the only thing you can do is try to push the needle wherever you have influence, whatever you can do. I've recently started working more hands-on with product development out of house, working with buyers as well. Sometimes it's about talking about the recyclability of the product or even the future availability to make it recyclable. And also made out of renewable materials. Potentially that's setting the mold up to have a thicker gate so that when we are ready to move into using fully renewable materials, we're already tooled for that. But in general, it's a hard one to wrap around. Sometimes I feel like an eco-terrorist.
Yeah.
I sleep pretty soundly at night on it. For context, I used to work for, at the time, Australia's biggest manufacturer and one of America's biggest recyclers, which produces most of the boxes for Amazon in the United States and Australia. And one of the things I learned there, as well as working on projects like a solar car or talking to people who want to push environmental policy, this idea that stuff has to go to landfill is not entirely correct. It's largely down to the fact that most people don't actually care. When you live in a democratic society, if enough people want something, it gets done, if it is technically possible. And certain items like plastic bottles, super easy to recycle. Cardboard, super easy. This cheese from the pizza in the cardboard box, now I can't recycle it. Absolute horseshit. Unless they're using machinery from the 1960s. It's not a difficult problem to solve. It is largely a energy entropy problem. And what I mean by that is it requires energy to recycle something. Energy has a cost associated to it. There are cheap and clean ways of producing that energy, but they are also often very politically unpopular with the very people who claim to be all about the environment. Sleep soundly, it's largely down to the fact that anything worth doing is difficult and most people don't want to do it. What I've found mostly is the people who claim to care about it the most actually have the least motivation to do anything. And that has been pretty consistent in my experience across industries. The people who often are the biggest cynics are actually the biggest advocates for it. And they're the ones who get their hands dirty when times come for it. But the people who talk about it in the media, they don't want to make a compromise and they don't actually want to do anything. They just want to look like they're doing something.
Yeah. That's a tough one to swallow. No, I appreciate the insight. I do. It's a question that now 20 years in on my career, I'm still asking myself and really every project that we take on. What is the impact that this is going to have on someone's life? What kind of joy is it going to bring? Is it going to be designed so well that they'll want to hold on to it for at least one more cycle rather than swapping it out for something else? And if we can do that, well, it's one less product in the landfill or one less product in a junk drawer. And every once in a while, we get these opportunities that are just phenomenal. We work with a shoe company called Allbirds, a sustainable footwear company. And they asked us to create the most sustainable footwear box in the world. And so we created it 100% out of sugar. That's it. It's made out of sugar. And it's sugar cane. It had never been done before. We brought in the manufacturer, Voyon, to be able to do it the way that we wanted to. And we did something that had never been done. And then that's been able to go and be repeated by other companies because Allbirds just open sources their technology.
Like bagasse sugar cane?
Yeah, it's bagasse. Yep. It's a waste product of sugar cane. It's like a gel almost. And then you create a fiber pulp out of it and then add the sugars back in and you can mold it into a shape.
So cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can check it out on our website. Look at the Allbirds case study. Your mind is blown. I can see it.
Oh, okay. Everyone that's listening to this right now, go to the website because I'm fascinated by this.
It's pretty cool.
Link in the show notes.
We're working with another company out of Nairobi there's a VC called Lower Carbon Capital. And so we're the agency for Lower Carbon where, their motto on their website, you'll see it's capital that unfucks the world. What's fun about that is that they take on projects that are to do just that. Right now, we're designing an electric boat called Arc Boats. And Arc is amazing. It's the world's first electric ski boat. We're heavily involved with them to electrify the boat category. We're designing a product with them called Eco Safi. It's a stove that is free for people in Nairobi in Kenya. And they buy these little cold pressed wood pellets, kind of like a smoker grill, but it's made of all byproduct. And so it's essentially free wood that gets chopped up, mulched up in these little pellets that then folks can buy the same price as the coal that they already buy. It doesn't cost trees. It puts out 1/10 of the waste into the air that coal does, and it cooks 3 times faster. Is there a stove involved to do this? Yes. Is there a stove involved to do the coal that their current 2 billion people cook on coal every day in the world? They're already using a stove, but they're using trees. They're cutting down good trees to smoke them, smolder them to get the coal. And so is this stove going to be in a landfill one day? Well, we've designed it so the metal on the outside can be taken off and can be recycled, but nonetheless it might. But it's also going to save 10 to 1 trees as it does that, which Kenya is in a crisis with their trees right now. That by 2030, it's going to be deforested completely. And so there's this balance. There's this balance of bringing joy to people and doing it in a way that is going to be responsible both to the person, hopefully the longevity of the life of the product, so they want to use it longer, as well as to the way that it affects the earth in its post-life.
That's really, really incredible. And such a cool way of looking at it. Will what I'm doing really push the needle in the right direction that might actually account for introducing these new products into the world?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. Pretty exciting stuff. That's next level shit right there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have so many questions about the boat.
Oh, the boat's amazing.
Have you seen those amazing propellers that they made that I think it's up to 40% more efficient and 20% faster?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yep.
And that's all through geometry?
Amazing. It's amazing.
The patent office didn't see that one coming.
Do you have a Google Sheet with the environmental impacts of these products?
What do you mean?
Do you quantify and measure the positive and negative outcomes?
No, we haven't. I think that's a really cool exercise. We're creating a library, though, of materials that is just shareable. And there's another studio in San Francisco called Guacamole Airplane that has just opened up their sheet. So if you go to their website, they actually have a resource for all these sustainable manufacturers and materials.
That's so cool. Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
With your materials, you should make a Keyshot library as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know Render Weekly?
Yeah.
Tyler Anderson is one of the co-founders of Render Weekly, and you should have Tyler on the podcast. That was amazing. And he's been with us for 3 years, and just incredible how he and Ryan, his partner with Render Weekly, have created the world's largest industrial design community.
It's
Think
incredible.
about that. IDEA has been around for a billion years, and Render Weekly came and did it in a year. So relevant.
Well, we'd love to have him on. We'd love to be put in touch.
Yeah, Tyler's great. I love that guy.
Yeah, definitely send him our way.
You guys sometimes label yourselves a brand incubator and a business accelerator. How does that work, and how does it set you apart from other studios?
We are a design agency. At our core, that's what we do, is we design experiences. And those can be product experiences or packaging experiences, digital, like we're a design agency. But we use our power as a design agency to serve our clients who come in and partner with us, and then to incubate our own brands. When we partnered with Pattern, one of the initiatives of coming together was to utilize the power of data and their e-commerce acceleration and how we can accelerate a brand through better design. And so we are launching our own brands. So we've launched 2 brands so far. One is called Home, H-O-H-M. The website is welcomehome.com. And the other one is Olyer, A-U-R-I-A, Olyer. So yeah, H-O-H-M and Olyer. And one's a beauty device brand and a wellness brand, and the other one is a wellness scenting brand. And so those are us from the ground up, and partnering with Pattern to incubate and launch brands based on data and opportunities that we saw in the market. That tool that I told you about, Where to Play, well, now we can run that tool. And if we want to make an investment in that category, we can go ahead and just launch that product or launch that brand ourselves. So that's what we've done with Home and Olyer.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Very, very cool.
And do you use these as case studies to clients to convince them that your process is the best way to go forward?
Yeah, and we don't say that's the best way. At our studio, we've had so many amazing people, from Ammunition to Fuse Project to IDEO to New Deal to who else? Branch, Are You Leading? All the usual suspects. And these are all design studios that I respect so much, and have friends and have enlistees in those studios and designers from those studios in Enlisted. For me, it's just contrary to my soul to say, oh, we're better, because they're amazing. They really are. The Are You Leading team came to our Oakland studio a few weeks back and just came and hung out a couple of hours. And I just told James, who leads their design team, I'm like, dude, you guys inspire us so much. Are You Leading is an amazing design studio. For us, it's like, cool, all ships rise. Here we are. We're all designers doing our best, and all ships rise. And we're unique in that we have the Pattern partnership, and we have more data than any other design agency or company in the world. And we get to utilize that, right? We have AI tools that we're creating from the ground up that nobody else has or ever will have, because they'll be proprietary to us. And then we've collected and curated 50 of the most brilliant designers that I've ever known, ever met with. We get to harness all of their experience from other agencies to bring in and just make the best Enlisted that we can be.
That's a good tangent to go down. You got 50 of the best. How do you choose the best of the best to join your team?
Generally speaking, they're designers who I've had on my radar for a long time. My VP of industrial design has been in Enlisted for almost 8 years. And I had him on my radar for probably a year. And we talked for about 6 months before we decided to make a go at it. And now 8 years later, he's had an incredible impact on the company and our clients. That's the same with my VP of branding and visual design, Mary. She's been with me for about 8 years. And same thing. It was just like, who is really creating next level shit out there? Then when I meet him, I'm either instantly like, I never want to hang out with you again. Or I'm like, I want to hang out with you every day.
Yeah, I want to hang out with you so bad. I'm going to pay to hang out with you.
Yeah, pretty much. I joke around about that.
Yeah.
My wife and I are secretly introverts. She's very introverted. So we don't really have friends. We're not friendsters. So I always joke around with my Enlisted team. I'm like, well, hey, you're my friend. You're all I got. But it's kind of true. Like, I really like them.
I love that. But realistically, you spend more time with them.
It's true. It's true. We work really hard at Enlisted. We work really smart. It just feels like a family. I know that's so cliche to say. We just like each other. We just do. Within 30 seconds of looking at your portfolio, I can tell whether or not you're ready for somewhere like Enlisted. Okay? 30 seconds. And then after that, I just want to spend time with the person. And if I like them, if they inspire me, I don't say you'll be a fit at Enlisted. I'll say you are enlisted.
You are enlisted. That's
How to get enlisted.
the saying.
I mean,
Getting enlisted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what does it take to turn up as a blip on the Beau radar?
Really good work. It's going to surprise me. Usually what's interesting is that design for an industrial designer, the design itself is just table stakes. It just has to be so good and so right on with what's trending right now. And then after that, it's the communication skill. It's the visual communication skill. It's the rendering, animation, videography. How did this person take a product? We could all design this product, right? This product in and of itself is well designed, but it's not magical. What's that other tech company that's launching right now? Nothing?
No,
Right? Isn't it Nothing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you,
The Nothing 2 phones just coming out.
yeah, exactly. I love it, right? I absolutely love it. So you look at these AirPods compared to the Nothings, compared to some of the B&O work or the Jabras. There's so many choices. And at the end of the day, everything surrounding the product itself and how it's communicated that really brings it to life. I look for that in people's portfolios. It's not that they're multifaceted designers, they're industrial designers. But they're industrial designers like Tyler, who will blow your mind every time he renders or animates something. And he comes to you and says, yeah, no, it's cool. Keyshot's great, but like, I'm doing all this stuff in Redshift. Check this out. But then Redshift was cool last year. And now I'm doing this and this and this. And you're just like, dude, I've never even heard of that. That's amazing. That's what I'm looking for.
What would happen if you got presented work and it's so successful, it's like those Apple AirPods, they're generic? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
But that's the thing. It's not just the AirPod. It's everything around the AirPod and how it was presented. It's the storytelling. It's the visuals. It's all of that. If all of that was amazing, but the design of the product sucked, no. Table stakes, the design of the product has to be amazing. But then it's everything else surrounding it that's telling that brand story that's going to get it sold in. Just like marketing, just like all of us buying stuff.
Speaking of insecurity, as a leader of a design consultancy, what would you say your biggest struggles are?
Oh, man. So I started Enlisted when I was 29 and I was a lead designer.
Oh, I'm 29.
Yeah, there you go. So it's a good age. And I just felt like it was time. And because I didn't wait until I was mature and experienced, like many other people who, when they found their design studio, do, and rightfully so, I had to cut my teeth and just learn by experience so many things. One of the things that I struggled with early on was just not knowing what to do. Instead of reaching my goal of quote unquote knowing what to do, I took this mentality of curiosity. I don't know what to do. So we're going to figure this out together. And it's so core to who Enlisted is and what it feels like to be at Enlisted that not everybody thrives here. There's a degree of entrepreneurialism that designers at Enlisted must have in order to really succeed and thrive here, because we're not super systems heavy. We don't have our shit figured out. And even though we run a really good business and we're very profitable and we are growing, and it seems like every other agency is shrinking, knock on IKEA particle board, it's really just learning together. We call it peer leadership at Enlisted. And we lead each other. The whole leadership team is pretty close to the same age or younger. We're really aggregating our experience to create something new and create something better than anything we've experienced at other studios.
How would you take it if, say, a new hire told you were wrong then?
Oh, I would love that. Do you know who critiques the boss? Nobody.
Or me. Me, unfortunately.
No, they do here at the studio, actually, and I appreciate it. So if they said you're wrong, I would say, please teach me. And not in a sarcastic way. Please teach me.
That's good. Because, yeah, I've definitely told people who thought they were my boss wrong, and it never goes down well, at least most of the time.
I feel like you could have more tact, Fraser.
Look, I start with subtlety and then I escalate if they don't respond. So by the time angry words are thrown around, I've already tried every other option.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's understandable.
Yeah. Everyone needs to be reminded, including myself, that no one is the suppository of all wisdom.
Correct. Myself included.
It's a good segue into maybe a bit of a tougher question. What would you say has been your biggest failure to date? And what lessons did you learn from it?
Ooh, my biggest failure to date was two things that come to mind. The first company that I incubated with my previous business partner. So I co-founded Enlisted back in 2008 with a designer named Jared Aller. Jared and I had gone to school together. We went to Williams-Sonoma together. We went to New Deal together. And then we co-founded Enlisted together. And Jared's awesome, amazing designer. I'd say the two biggest failures so far with Enlisted are that Jared and I were a great partnership until we wanted different things. And in our young age, didn't really know how to communicate that. And so the breakup was really tough. We had about 15 designers at the time, and we had to cycle through almost all of those designers after the breakup because it was just such a dark cloud over the studio for about a year. The way that I handled that, the way that that all just went down, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know what I would change. I would just do it differently. That was one failure, is how I handled the partnership and the breakup. And then the other one is the first company that we founded at Urbio. And Urbio was on Shark Tank. It was our first hey, let's put our money where our mouth is. And instead of just getting hired to create brands, let's do it all ourselves and launch it ourselves. And so we did. And we were on Shark Tank. And
Did you present it on Shark Tank?
Yeah. Season 4, episode 14.
Okay, we're putting that in the show notes.
I gotta look this up because I actually watch Shark Tank every afternoon because I work from
Do
home.
you?
And
Oh,
it's on this is really embarrassing. It's
Go.
on free to air and it's just always on in the house. And
Yeah,
I'm always like,
yeah.
"Ooh."
oh, it's great.
I'm gonna look you up. I'm gonna watch your pitch.
All right. Yeah. Season 4, episode 14. And I won't tell you anything about it, but it was an amazing experience. You got to go watch the show yourself so you can see how it went down. But the experience of preparing for it was absolutely phenomenal. Pitching and doing the whole pitch. We did a Kickstarter and we spun it off of Enlisted. We hired a CEO out of New York to come in and really scale it. We went and did a fundraise. We incubated a brand and it was seeing success. We launched it in Target, Container Store, Office Max, Staples.
Now
all
I'm
over.
even more interested. It's in my category.
And it was great. And what happened was we were all pretty young guns doing this thing. We had a great story and a great narrative and people behind us that believed in it. And we scaled too quickly. We scaled in retail too quickly without knowing what we were doing. And it bit us in the butt. So we became over leveraged. We couldn't finance the company. And so we fire sold it to a company called Honey Can Do. They're a big housewares brand out of Chicago. And it left us hanging with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt that took me years to pay off.
Oh my God.
And so it was a very expensive education. And I remember flying with a friend of mine who had gotten his MBA. And I said, I do have a goal, a professional goal to get my MBA. And he said, Beau, how much money did you invest and or get hung out to dry with Urbio? And I said, a couple $100,000. And he said, that's how much an MBA costs at Stanford. You got your MBA.
But without the piece of paper.
Yeah.
And he was right. Is there institutional knowledge that I've missed? Sure. But I learned through doing what needs to be done in some very painful experiences that now I get to sit across the table from an entrepreneur or a brand manager or a CEO, CMO, whoever, and say, I have been in your seat. I have put my skin in the game. And here's what I would do. And here's why. And to be able to level with somebody rather than oh, well, this design's the right design because of X, Y, and Z. If this were me, and here's all of my experiences and brands that I've launched, and some have succeeded and some have failed, here's what I would do. And then we just partner in a way that doesn't exist unless you're both entrepreneurs that have been in that position before. It's really fun. And those people have become some of my friends.
That's very cool. Yeah. I'm so excited to watch you on Shark Tank. I'm going to be like, I know him. I need this product.
Okay. Disclaimer. You're going to watch it and go, oh my gosh, he was a little boy. I look so young in Shark Tank. I watch it and I think, how was I not 16?
You look like you're 28 right now. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Okay. So that's one of my insecurities.
I feel like my biggest question when we Photoshop your face onto the Very Hungry Caterpillar, do we want the luscious hair or the new hairstyle?
No, the luscious hair. So one of my biggest insecurities is that I don't look my age, right? And so I've had clients fly in, meet with us, the whole thing, and they're like, I got to ask, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm old enough to create your company. All right. That's how old I am. But I've never looked my age. The most painful one, I flew into Chicago for a meeting with Nestle. They had a big office there. And I had worked with this specific marketer for a year, but we had never met in real life. And my flight was delayed. The meeting had already started. There were probably 20 people in the boardroom, including some enlistees were there already. And I walked in, and what did she say? It was so embarrassing. I walked in, I set my stuff down. The person next to me gave me a little hug because they knew who I was. And she said, sorry, do you want to introduce yourself? And I said, yeah, I'm Beau Oyler. I'm the CEO of Enlisted. And she goes, oh my gosh, Beau, I thought you were an intern walking in. And we all laughed.
Brutal.
She and I became good friends over the years.
You should have just turned around and go, do you want some moisturizer? I own a moisturizer brand, and that's the one I use.
Yeah, seriously.
Turn it into another pitch.
I should have. This is Beau Oyler, and you're listening to Redacted.
Looking ahead, what are your aspirations for Enlisted Design and the impact you hope to make in the design industry?
In the design industry itself, I'm a firm believer in this idea of all ships rise. For me, community is super important. Competitiveness really isn't. Even though we offer quite a wide range of services to create those cohesive brands, I really look forward to continuing our collaboration with other design agencies. I love it. Like, we collaborate with people who we compete with all the time. Character out of San Francisco, we collaborate with. We collaborate with Punch Cut, digital agency, often, and other agencies. I look forward to continuing to collaborate. I think what I'm most excited about, though, is the work that we're doing with Pattern in creating data for design, data for designers, AI for designers, AI tools that aren't going to exist out of what we're creating for designers. And then being able to utilize that to really incubate the brands that we're incubating and launch more of our own brands and grow these brands, but also be able to do that for our partners. That's what gets me really excited, because I'm a consumer, but I'm a capitalist. I love when we get to design stuff that helps companies grow. And I'm invested in a lot of those companies, financially invested. It's really fun to be able to have this mix of not just doing beautiful design, but doing beautiful design that sells and helping them with their launches so that they go out and they sell and grow the companies. The other thing that I'm really excited about is the work that we're doing in the creator economy. YouTubers, creators, celebrities. We're the design agency behind Mr. Beast. We created Feastables,
So
Mr.
cool,
Beast Bar, Mr. Beast Burger. They'll do hundreds of millions in revenue this year off those. And that market didn't even exist a couple of years ago. It's really fun when we get a call from Selena Gomez, who's like, I've seen your work, I love it, and I want to work with you. Or it's cool when these YouTubers reach out, like Laserbeam, who's there in Australia. We just finished our first project with Laserbeam, and he was awesome to work with. We created a brand called Cooked, and it's super fun. You're going to love it. So Cooked will launch soon. Preston, Afmal, who else? Tom Segura, Bert Rychek, all of these comedians, YouTubers, celebrities that are harnessing their personal brands to launch products that speak to their consumer and to their market. That's just really, really exciting. And Bert Kreischer is one of the celebrities that we're working with. And today on a Zoom, just a couple of hours ago, Bert did his thing. He on stage, he always rips his shirt off when he's doing his comedy acts. And in the Zoom, he was just so excited about a concept that we pitched. And he takes his shirt off and I'm like, there he is, Bert. There's Bert right there. We recognize
Is
him.
it bad that I don't know any of these people?
Oh, man. Check them out. These are people that are on your radar till they are. I mean, Tom Segura is the #1 show in Netflix right now. Bert Kreischer, he was just on tour. He's got a #4 show or something like that on Netflix. They've got a podcast called Two Bears. They're just funny guys, really, really funny guys. And then Mr. Beast is the #1 YouTuber in the world. We're doing a really cool project
Definitely
with a
know
guy named
Mr.
Mark.
Beast. Yeah.
Oh, do you know Mr. Beast? Yeah, Jimmy's great. And then we're doing a really cool project with a guy named Mark Rober. And Mark is...
I love Mark Rober.
You know Mark?
Oh,
yeah. So
not personally, but...
Yeah, that's him. No, Mark is such a cool guy.
That's amazing. He would be wicked to get on the podcast.
Oh, dude. Mark is like... check this out about Mark Rober. I did not know this. So last time I was down, his main office is in Palo Alto or something. So I was down there with him and we were presenting some of our strategy and positioning work. We're launching a new brand together. So we're there in his Crunch Labs where they do all their cool projects. And
incredible. Yeah. Even that project alone is so awesome.
Dude, it's rad. Yeah, it's amazing. So he's like, you guys want to go out to dinner afterward? Like, yeah, let's go. And then after dinner, he's like, do you want to just come over to my house and hang out? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And so we go over to Mark Rober's house, me and Mark and his GM, Jim, and then Jim's wife, Kelly, comes over. Just the four of us hung out. And I walk into Mark's house and it's just me and him. And he's like, let me give you a tour. Simple house, not big, but so well curated. The furniture, the artwork, and he did it himself. There's a difference between a designer and a curator. A designer can create something from nothing, whereas a curator creates from the things that are around them that are already designed. Kanye is an amazing curator. He's not a designer, he's a curator. Well, Mark Rober is an amazing curator. And when I walked in his house, I was like, dude, you have an amazing taste. You get it. It was really cool to see.
You need to push the Architectural Digest tour of Mark Rober's house now. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, no, seriously, that's a really good idea. He's a great guy. We hung out till 2:30 in the morning.
The other YouTuber I really think would be really cool to get on the show is Marques Brownlee. I'd love to have him on to talk about, as a reviewer, what makes an incredible product.
Marques Brownlee?
MKH.
Marques, MKBH.
Oh, Brownlee, yep. Yeah, he's awesome. That would be really fun, right? Because think about his criteria. Everybody wants to be...
It's so different to what we're trained to.
It wants him to review. Yeah.
He's the original hungry caterpillar.
Is he?
Consumer of design.
He's the consumer. Yeah. No, but he is. And he's an amazing curator. I think just that topic, a designer versus a curator, is really cool.
I would love to have his insights, and coming from a non-traditional industrial design area, because he's doing his own product development now as well, and he's implementing different criteria into his products to what we would traditionally be looking for.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Speaking of development, what kind of tools, be it new ones like AI or old school ones like sketching, are used in your team's process?
It's a lot of the same tools. We're all in the Google Docs, all that stuff. And the entire Adobe suite, we actually work with Adobe to help them test and incubate new products. And then same with Keyshot. And we do a lot of work with Cinema 4D and Redshift and After Effects and a lot in the animation space. There's a number of proprietary tools that we use from Pattern on the data. There's one there called Predict, and then there's another one, Where to Play. These are data analytics tools that we can really understand the consumer better, understand their pain points, their reviews, understand what's converting. That's a big conversation for us is conversion. When you are scrolling down the page, what is going to get you to click on that image, read the lines of copy, and then click buy, add to cart? And that's conversion. And so there's some tools that we use there to test different visuals.
That's the whole science in itself, though.
Yes, it very much is. We've got 50 designers internal at Pattern that report to me. I lead the whole Pattern internal team as well. And that's what their science is conversion. I'd love to come and say, it's all about Midjourney, or it's all about CAD, or it's all about whatever. There are some amazing new tools that are coming up, but by and large, they're all tools that we have access to. They just are. And then it comes down to who's using them the best.
It comes down to that curating, who's curating the tools in the right ways and getting the right insights to make the best products.
Yeah. This is Beau Oyler, and you're listening to Redacted.
What advice would you give to aspiring industrial designers, and what are some of the key skills and qualities needed to that needed to be successful in this field?
My advice to the youngins: learn, learn, learn. Learn everything that you can. Branch out of what you were taught in school. Use that as a great platform to continue to learn and just graduate. I would just say to the youngins, make sure that you're getting inspired by those who were creating what's next versus the dinosaurs of the past.
I love that term. Yeah.
And no, I will not name the dinosaurs that I frequently
No,
talk about
I'm just
in this
going to
video.
steal that.
And what advice do the dinosaurs need to hear?
Learn, learn, learn from the youngins. Do you see the virtuous
I
cycle?
love
That's
that.
why it's peer. That's why it's peer leadership at Enlisted.
Ask to be corrected.
Yep, absolutely.
Redacted.
Thanks once again, Beau, for coming on the show today. We really appreciated you joining us and sharing your incredible insight. We've enjoyed it, and I'm sure the audience will too. And guys, don't forget to check the show notes for any relevant links to anything we've mentioned, where to find the show, and where to find out more about the work at Enlisted, as well as how to contact us. And until next time, you've been listening to Redacted.
The number you have dialed has not been recognized. Please check and try again. The number you have dialed has been
Redacted.